everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at another devblog for the next major update of War Thunder, and this is another box with missiles on it, which is not exactly my favourite vehicle, but we'll see how it goes. This is the HJ-9. It is a Chinese box with 80 gems on it. It is labelled as a tank destroyer. It's also going to be at rank 6, so enjoy facing stabilized APFSDS and Dishkas and 50 cals that will tear you apart when it comes to this thing. It is an interesting box, so we'll go through some of its features, and also let's start off with its history. Starting in the late 1980s, Chinese engineers began developing a more powerful 80 gem based on the existing HJ-8 missile. The goal was to create a more efficient missile, capable of operating in all weather conditions, had extended range and to be precise, and powerful enough to engage even the most advanced combat vehicles with deadly success. The result of this undertaking was the HJ-9 missile, fitted with a tandem warhead. However, as the missile turned out to be too heavy for infantry use, the decision was made to use it exclusively on a mobile platform. Subsequently, engineers chose the chassis of the WZ-550 4x4 and fitted it with a retractable 4-barreled missile launcher, akin to the VCAC Mephisto, which entered French service in the early 1980s. The HJ-9, as it became known, was first shown to the public at a military parade in 1999, showcasing the PLA's latest equipment. The HJ-9 is in service with the Chinese Army to this date. So the HJ-9 comes in as one of these mobile platforms with access to 80 gems. It does have some positives to it, but in my opinion it will mainly be negative. And the main reason is, as I've said many times, is that these 80 gem carriers are very much worse than their MBT counterparts. When it comes to the Swedish one, which was announced, last week, maybe that one won't be too bad. It will still have the same issues, but at least it will have scouting since it's labelled as a light tank. This one is labelled as a tank destroyer, and since the Mephisto, which is in-game, which is basically this thing, is a tank destroyer and doesn't have scouting, I fear that the HJ-9 will not have scouting. One of the major issues that I have with these vehicles is their lack of versatility. They don't really do anything apart from be an 80 gem launcher. They can't really be aggressive because you need to be going at a certain speed to be able to fire the 80 gem, usually less than 5 kilometers an hour, and therefore you can't be proactive in the game. All you can really do is one of two things. You can flank to the side and hope that nobody sees you, and therefore, you get into a decent position, fire 80 gems, and Bob's your uncle. Or what you end up doing is you end up just sitting somewhere, waiting for the enemy to push, trying to shoot them with an 80 gem, and hope that they don't see you first, or hope that they don't see you in time as the 80 gem is going in. Even in the video they use for the HJ-9, there's a leopard just staring at the HJ-9. It could have easily shot it at any point if it was an actual player. So it's just one of those things where, guess what? A lot of guns around these BRs are faster muzzle velocity than the missile. So what you can do is you can peek a corner, fire, and then go back while the missile is traveling towards you. I've used the HJ-8 on the Object 122. It's an incredibly slow missile. One of the things that they don't talk about, which is going to be very important for this vehicle, is actually the speed of the actual missile itself. They talk about the speed of the vehicle. The chassis is very similar, if not the same, as the PTL-02 chassis, so it'll be okay. It'll go fast, but its acceleration won't be the best, and it'll struggle on certain types of maps, which is always fun. But overall, it should be kind of mobile. The main issue with this chassis is that it's incredibly tall. Because it's incredibly tall and no armor, very easy to see, so if the enemy sees you first, you'll die pretty quickly. It only has 12 millimeters of armor on it, so you're going to get killed by everything, even by stuff which only has a 50 cal will be able to kill you in this thing. So It's an unfortunate scenario, but c'est la vie. That's what it is with these bang or bust machines. I'm hoping that this thing doesn't go too high BR. It is rank 6 though, which is a bit of a problem. But when you already have such monsters like the PTL02 around 8083, the WMA 301 as well, if this thing gets higher than that and they decide to put it at a higher BR, it would be completely useless to play. The Chinese already have some pretty useless AT-gem launches. They have an M113. That one is very poor to play compared to its counterparts that already exist in the tree. They have a CM25, which is also pretty horrific to play. It has one nicety to it, and that's the top-down AT-gem, but that is unreliable and not too fun. The HJ-9 will have this tandem missile, which will be able to pen pretty well, but all of its other factors are going to be absolutely rubbish. It can go, I suppose, you can hide this thing behind a rock and then shoot over it, but in order to find a rock that's big enough to be able to hide this bloody thing is going to be pretty hard to do. It does get thermals, so you will be able to see the enemy while it shoots you in the face. And also, at the same time, the AT-gem can travel 5 kilometers. So on certain maps, you'll be able to guide it in, which will be quite nice. And because it's a tandem AT-gem, it means that you'll be able to pierce through ERA. You'll be able to have the secondary charge go after stuff, which is pretty nice overall. It's not too bad. So its mobility is variable depending on what map you get on. Its actual AT-gems, like they should pen a lot, and you know the thermals, it'll be easy to see targets. The main thing that we don't see when it comes to these, when it comes to Devblog, is how fast the AT-gem is going to be, but it should pen a lot, and survivability is pretty much 0. So this is just like the Mephisto. Every Mephisto I've seen so far in the game has been clapped. It sometimes gets 1 kill by spamming missiles at something, and then it just gets shot in the face. And that's pretty much how all of these AT-gem carriers go. I know a lot of people seem to defend these things and their usability, saying that they are pretty good or they enjoy playing them. That's fine. You can enjoy playing what you want. Masochism is seen as okay in our society. I'm not sure why, but it is. So if people want to hurt themselves, that's okay. But when it comes to the actual usability, compared to medium tanks, compared to light tanks, compared to even heavy tanks, they fall massively short in that regard. And that to me is not very entertaining. I've played pretty much all these vehicles. I've given up on most of them after spading them. Many of them are what I class as hangar decorations. And it is a simple, like 3 or maybe 4-step thing. These vehicles are designed to be mobile, but you can't be mobile while firing. You usually have to be stationary, so the mobility thing doesn't matter. It only matters at the start of the match to get into a position, and guess what? At the BRs that they're at, usually you have pretty mobile MBTs as well, so, you know, it doesn't really work too well. The AT-gems sometimes are pretty RNG and how they actually pen stuff. The actual velocity of the AT-gem go to target is too slow, and most things have stabilizers and can fire on the move, and also here when the AT-gem is fired, turn to you and shoot you in the face. So the general advantage that you get is very, very small if you're able to catch the enemy off guard. And the question always is, what can I do in an MBT compared to the AT-gem carrier? And it's, well, you can do everything an AT-gem carrier does. You can just do it quicker, and also you can do it so you are less exposed while doing it, because you don't have to hold the you don't have to hold the optics on a target while the round goes in. You can fire and then move back very quickly, whereas an AT-gem carrier has to sit there and wait for the missile to move in. There's a reason why when you have a look at a lot of the AT-gem carriers, they've gone down in BR over and over and over again. If they put this thing too high, it'll go down again. I'm sure they'll put it at the Mephisto BR, and it'll probably stay there, and you'll hardly ever see it in the matches. Instead, you'll see the actual useful vehicles like the PTL02. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Nicholas Richardson, eLoveGoat, Pyman675, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Jerry Prevolt, Megadino King, Orange Tail, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Uncle Bean, Sem Arslan, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.